Unless we're supposed to wait on Christy.
What the heck? Cassie, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine keeps freezing. Is it just me?
No, mine did that too.
I thought it was my connection. Mine keeps doing that too.
Okay. Because I don't normally have connection problems, so there must be something else going on.
I thought that was just me, honestly.
It just keeps kicking me out. I'll try this one more time. I switched to my phone. Is anybody else getting kicked out?
A few times.
Yeah,
Weird.
seems to work on my iPhone. No, now it's stuck again. It just keeps getting stuck. Can't.
We'll wait like one more minute for Christy because I think she was wanting to hop on.
Christy should be hopping on in just a second. I just sent her the link.
Okay, perfect.
See, Ken, I'm not the late one.
Hey, I was bragging on you, okay? I was bragging on you. You were not late.
Hello, sorry I'm late, guys. Did she already get you started? What question did she ask? Can you hear me? No, you can't hear me. Of course
I
not.
can hear you.
Oh,
Yeah.
you can. Okay. Maybe I don't need my earbuds. Maybe that's why you're all muted. So we have 3 broken bones in our nose and a deviated septum. So we have surgery tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And on top of that, we have a mild concussion. So happy September, everybody. It came in like a lion. So yes, all from playing football without a helmet.
Oh,
Going to beat him.
that's the worst.
Anyway, we're not going to talk about that, but that is why I'm late, and I apologize. Cassie, Jennifer, and Diane, and Ken, thank you guys so much for doing this class with us. Did she ask you any questions yet?
No questions yet.
Questions. Okay. So the first question that we've got today is, tell me how the inspections have changed from 6 months ago. Are you still seeing the same trends of the as is, or are you seeing more inspection contingencies? Since I see Ken in his bright blue shirt, I'm gonna pick him first.
Well, you know, Christy, a lot of my people, they're doing as is, number 2, or they're as is number 1. Most of those as is number 1s obviously are cash offers. The number 2s have been specific about even adding a addendum to only asking if something doesn't pass for the lending side of things, which, you know, hasn't happened yet. So other than that, I mean, mine are still pretty much the same over here.
Okay. How about you, Cassie?
I feel like I haven't seen as many box 2. I actually was presented an offer and the agent said, absolutely do not put box 2. We'll only accept 1 or 3. Just because, and honestly, now that, you know, if I receive offers, now I'm more looking at ones that are box 1 or 3, just because if you do box 2, you know, it's just a clean cut we're out for any reason they want, where box 3, at least the sellers have a chance to come back and try to save it. So if I'm looking at multiple offers, I don't like the box 2 at all.
Okay. How about you, Tyann?
For, let me think, for my sellers, I've gotten a couple of box 2s, but I've been surprised that a lot have been still the box 3. When I've made offers, I've either done box 2 or 3. The only time I do box 1 is if I have an investor or somebody that is just very comfortable fixing things and just, that the inspection is just not real important. But yeah, most of them have either been box 2, but we've also done box 3 and have still gotten the inspections. For one of my more recent ones, the agent checked box 2, but she said, if y'all are more comfortable, we'll do box 3. And we kind of had that conversation. I think I told you I'd made an offer like a year ago for one of my clients and I chose box 2. And I think the agent called me back or maybe I did box 3 and then we had a conversation about those different boxes. And she said, if you check box 2, you can still ask for repairs. And I was like, well, that's not the way I understood it. I understood that, I'd have to send a release. So we had that conversation and I thought that was kind of interesting. Well, then I had a client that we did box 2 and they were USDA financing. And there were some really big things that showed up. And so we sent a release from the contract. And then the list agent called and said, what are some things that showed up? Are there some things we could do to fix that your clients would stay on the contract? And so I said, yeah, we'd be glad to share those things with you. And we moved forward after signing an inspections agreement form. So we were a little bit out of contract, but I did send the release. It's just then she said, if we were to do these repairs, would you be willing to move forward? So we negotiated that. So I kind of just go back and forth, but I try to keep that communication open with the agent so they kind of know what our intent, I guess, would be.
Yeah. I had the same thing happen. I had the seller and they came back, it was box 2, and they said, no, there's some issues. And at this point, my clients had already put an offer on another house. So I went to the other agent and I said, is there anything we could do to save the deal? I know you checked box 2 and we both talked about it. And we actually worked it out. We just lowered the price of the house.
Yes.
So
It's kind of, I thought it was more of a cut and dry thing, but then it seems like some agents are saying, if something major shows up, we would still have that conversation.
mm-hmm.
So. And that's also the way I've explained it to my clients is that it's typically a pass fail, but it doesn't have to be, but it all depends on what a seller is willing to do.
Yeah. So we'll go into more of that in just a second. Jennifer, do you see a difference between now and 6 months ago on what you're suggesting in offers or what you're getting in offers as a seller?
As a seller, as a listing agent, I have had offers. Well, a lot of, especially if you're in like the $200,000 to $300,000 price range, I've had sellers that will only look at option 1, and we've gotten tons of offers for option 1. So I've gotten very lucky there. Now, when writing an offer, I wrote one the other day where we were competing, and I wrote in option 1. My buyer did not want to go over listing price, so we just wrote inspection option 1, and they got it. So that's maybe another way of being able to get the house. People that are like, I don't want to pay way over asking price. Well, maybe they should forfeit the inspection. I mean, this is the first year in I don't even know how many years of doing this that I've ever even written an offer with an inspection option 1, but I'm getting them and I'm writing them now, which is so strange. As far as I think, Tyann, you said you're getting offers where they write it in as inspection 2. And I've had the same thing where they'll write in like on page 4, we'll do 2 or 3. It really depends on what the seller wants. But I will say, if I'm going to do a number 2, I only do like 7 days or less. I wouldn't hold the house off the market any longer. Not in this market, because it's so risky where they can get out for any reason.
I'm going to step in and say that I have noticed in the last few weeks more offers coming in that are wanting negotiation. So for instance, 6 or 7, even, well, 4 months ago, May 23rd is the day it happened, y'all. I'm telling you, I woke up on May 23rd and it's like I ran into a brick wall. I'll never forget the day. Everything kind of shut down the weekend that they all graduated UK. I guess that was the weekend they let out of school, and that was the weekend that they were graduating from UK. But since that date, May 23rd, it has been routine that I'm getting more and more inspection clauses, whereas I was getting as is in box 2. Does everybody know what we mean when we say box 2, box 1, box 3? I had to click over to my phone or internet or something went out at the office, and I can't see everybody at one time. So if you don't know what box 2, box 3 means, speak up really quick and I'll explain it. I don't want to leave anyone behind.
I don't know.
Okay, box 1 is where you're taking it as is, no inspections. You're not inspecting anything except termite, because that's separate than inspections. Box 2, I'm echoing somewhere, so somebody needs to mute for me. Box 2 is when you have the right to have any kind of inspection that you want, as long as you don't damage the property. However, you do not have the right to ask for any repairs, period. There is no rights given to ask for a negotiation of repairs. Box 3, and that's going to be a big topic we're about to discuss. Box 3 says that you have to have an inspection, or you can have an inspection, and you have the right to negotiate in good faith repairs with the between the buyer and seller. So that's box 1, box 2, and box 3. So when we refer to those, we will interchange them, as you'll see, as is with an inspection, and as is with an inspection, no repairs requested. So just if you're misunderstanding which one we're talking about, chime in. Nobody here is going to be like, oh, she's asking too many questions, or he's asking too many questions. Just chime in. So with all that said, my next question is, how do you, the realtor, as a buyer's agent representative, handle a buyer who wants to ask for repairs on a clear inspection, on a clearly marked inspection 2, where you do not have that right? And this time I'm going to start with Jennifer.
So I get this a lot on both ends, either from my buyers or as a listing agent. And I think that they sometimes will write number 2 in order to win the offer, but then come back and ask for repairs. Now, the thing about that is too, is if your buyer is going to get out of the contract, if these things aren't fixed, do you go back? I go back to the listing agent and say, look, my buyer is going to get out of this contract unless this is fixed. So because on a number 2, they can walk for any reason at all. I feel like it's kind of a courtesy, even though I know that I get it. Like, oh, you can't ask for repairs on that. And that's fine. Then the buyer's just going to walk. I mean, that's really the only options. But I do feel like people use the number 2 to get through and then come back and ask for repairs on it. Now, if it was a bunch of small little repairs, then that is misuse, I think, of that option on the contract. But if it's something major that they're going to get out of the contract over, then it's worth a conversation, I think.
Okay. So Cassie. Thank you, Jennifer.
Well, when I first am presenting writing the offer, I tell my clients the difference between box 1, 2, and 3. And I specifically say with box 2, I say you can get an inspection, but if there is a deal breaker item, a major repair, then, we can get out of it. Well, I mean, you can get out of it for any reason, but I normally say, we only get out of this contract if it's like a big deal breaker item. You sure you want this house? We good to go. You're not going to walk for GFCI outlet not working. So I think I present it to them in the front end, like where they know that if it's not a major item, when it does come back, then they should still proceed forward and not try to get out for just little bits. So I think just explaining it to them on the front end will help that. But I do, if they do want out of the contract, and it is for a major item, I do go back to the listing agent and say, hey, I'm going to send over the release, but if there's any way that we can work it out, my clients still want the house. It's just, this is a pretty big deal that, you know, there's mold all over the crawl space or something like that.
Okay. Ken.
Yeah, so one of the big things on number 2, I tell people, take it as you see it, and that's it. If you don't want it, if something major comes out, get out. If otherwise, you need to stick with this house. The only time I think I've ever done a submission of number 2 where I actually had to do something was a USDA loan where they had to fix the foundation. That was the only time I've ever went to somebody, but majority of the time it's always been, sorry about that. It's always been number 2, take it as you see it. That's the best. I truly believe that's the best, but I think Cassie or Jennifer were talking about the days. I think it was Jennifer on what she does as to not hold things up is I actually do 5 to 7 days on that versus the, normal, 14. A lot of people do 14, and that doesn't hold up the house if they need to get it. That also gives you a better chance at winning some of these offers if you don't want to put an inspection clause number 1, or if you see something that might come as something that could be disastrous. I always put number 2 just to protect my clients so they can get out if they need to absolutely get out. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of number 3, in my opinion.
Okay. We'll go over that one in just a second. Tyann, how about you?
I probably do more like Jennifer and Cassie. I mean, I've always chosen number 3 for the most part to protect most of my clients, but I always educate them on the 3 options they have. So based on whatever house we're in, and then we talk about a contract, it'll be, here's option. We have 3 choices. You can do 1, 2, or 3, fully explain them. And that way they kind of know what they're getting involved in. And same with my sellers. If I get an offer, depending on what they are, I explain what those are. And then I've just from experience have said, I did check box 2 one time, and this is kind of what my buyer did, so that as a seller, they're kind of like, well, how does this work? What does it look like? And, does this mean I don't have to fix anything? And then recently I had an agent that did end up checking box 2, and we were fine with it because she was the one that said we can do 2 or 3. And I said, do 2. And then they came back with 1 safety thing, like a ground wire. And so, my guys, I guess, could have said no, but they did say, we're happy to fix that. It's not like a major thing. So I just try to educate and let people know as much as possible what their options are. But I don't want to lead somebody to believe that because they chose option 2 that they can ask for repairs. Because I do believe for the most part, it is kind of a cut and dry, you're doing this for information purposes only. And, as long as there's something not major, then you need to move forward with the contract.
Okay, so I'm going to set up a scenario for you. And I'm not going to call on each of you individually, but I want each of you to tell me how you would have handled it. And if it's the same, just say same as Ken, same as whatever, or don't answer. It's totally up to you. So you're in a multiple offer situation. There are several offers that are very, very close. And you choose this particular offer simply because of the inspection clause of 2, thinking that your sellers are thinking that they will inherently not be asked for repairs, or they'll know fairly quickly if the buyer is walking or staying on with the contract right after the inspection. The buyer has the inspection and comes back and says, we would buy this house if you'll do these things. And then you as the listing agent, you say to the buyer, you don't have the right to ask for these things. And they say, they don't care, I'm asking anyway. We all know, keep that in your mind. I'll give you a second to think about it while I'm finishing. We all know that those boxes have intended purposes, between real estate professionals. However, we are, no matter what, the defender of our client, the seller or the buyer. And if they ask us to do something, it's in our fiduciary duty to do it, whether we agree or not, as long as it's not illegal or fraud. So getting frustrated with the other agent is completely understandable, but also taking into consideration that they are just doing what they're requested by their buyer. Even if they've explained to their blue in the face that a box 2 means you cannot ask for repairs, buyer didn't care. So if it's big items, if it's small items, if it's 2 pages worth of items, do you try to negotiate, or do you just say it's box 2, time to go? Because you've got 5, 6, 7 other multiple offers that were sitting there that maybe were more money, maybe were more escrow, maybe were more, non-refundable escrow, whatever it may have been. It could have been better terms for the seller if they were going to negotiate repairs.
All right, got one question to ask.
Mhm.
How many days are they having the inspection? When do they have the inspection?
Less than 10. Let's say less than 10.
Less than
This
10?
isn't real. I'm making it up. So this isn't
Well,
real. I'm just
The
making it up.
only reason I ask is because let's say that you have it done and it's 7 days or 8 days and they have the inspection and then they're trying to negotiate on the last day. I'd literally sit there and tell my sellers, just sit here, sit here, sit here, just wait, just wait. And then I'd screw the buyer's agent for trying to do something like that, because it would go over the amount of times a release, because they would have to send a release, not a repairs reform. That's what I would do. But that's if it's up to that point of days. Now, of course, you still got to, let the seller know what's going on, but you can basically say that. So that's where I would be on that, in that particular case.
So you would back the buyer's agent into a wall. You
I
would back
back-
the buyer's agent up to a wall and force them to either provide a release or take it as is.
Because that was their responsibility to inform their client to the best of their ability. And that's what they should have done. And they didn't do that. They chose not to do that. So it's a misrepresentation of a good realtor for the inspection clause, in my opinion, for number 2. You really got to know what you're saying when you're doing number 2. Now, if it was something major, like a structure problem, you look at your seller and you're representing the seller, you tell them, look, you don't have to do it. You can just sit there and say, you can if you want. If you don't have to. And then I would just sit there and hopefully the buyer's agent figures out a way. And then if not, they keep the escrow. I mean, you're basically in the corner where you get to keep the escrow and profit for your seller at that
How do you
point.
keep the escrow?
Well, because if they're going to back out after the 10 days, let's say it's on that point, then you would keep the escrow at that point if they're trying to back out of the contract.
Oh,
So-
we haven't went that far yet. We're just talking about they
Yeah.
presented offers. They
But that's
presented.
I just back them in a corner. It's better to back
Okay.
them in a corner.
I
Okay.
like your
Anything
style,
else?
Ken. And Chrissy, I have a question for you, because so many
Oh,
people
no.
say, okay, send me an inspection agreement form asking for no repairs. But why do we
Mhm.
have to do that? We would have to send a release within that time frame, not an inspection
That-
form
yeah.
asking for repairs. Like, I feel like that's a misconception among agents. I hear that all the time, and all they have to do is send a written release within that time frame, not an inspection form requesting no repairs.
Okay, so if you're in number 2 or you're in number 3, you've got to send that inspection form back at the top that says no repairs are requested. It closes out that, it's just cleaner paperwork. Is it required? That could be debated, but it cleans up the paperwork. So when someone signs something, it kind of seals it in their mind. Like they're signing it and they're like, okay, that's done. So we're done with that process. If you represent a buyer, it's saying to your buyer, we're beyond the inspection. That's a no-go zone. Like, we're done there. You signed a paper saying there's no repairs requested. The seller's acknowledged it. We're done. That part's over. Let's move on to the next one. As a seller's representative, I think just getting that form and getting that clear buyer that they're not going to expect any repairs and they put their name on paper saying so, is just a sense of security for the seller. So is it required? It's debatable. Do I think it's better? Yes.
I mean, I
Do you
get that
also
it's
know that the
better.
buyer-
I get what
Go
you're
ahead.
saying, that it is better because it does say, okay, they're not asking for repairs, but I'm not going to beg an agent to do their job. If they don't do it within their 7 days, then they're moving forward, right? It doesn't matter if I got that form or not. They didn't send me a release
If you're on inspection 2,
on inspection
yes.
2. Yeah.
Yes. If you're in inspection 1, you still need something in writing, or inspection 3, you still need something in writing. Box 3, you still need something in writing either way. The final walkthrough is probably bigger than anything, and we won't even go down that road in this whole conversation, because that's just saying, yes, we see the house, we acknowledge its condition, we're good to go. That's a more CYA for us than anyone else in the transaction, us and the seller. But back to the situation, you've got a buyer who's adamant. They don't care they chose box 2. There's leaky faucets, there's leaky pipes, there's air conditioning's not making it cold enough. They want to submit a list of repairs no matter what you say to them, how much you educate them, they still want to submit those repairs just to see what the seller will say. How do you handle that?
I would probably still go to my seller and just say, hey, here's the issues with your house. I would probably, so if it's got a leaky toilet and it's getting ready to damage the house, I'm sure they're going to want to fix it anyways. They got to live there for the next 30 days. And if it causes more problems a week before closing, it's still their responsibility to keep the house up in a good condition and not a flooded house. So I would still be interested to see what was that big of a deal that your buyers wanted to walk away from, and go to my seller and go over the list. Hey, you're probably going to want to get this fixed anyways. You're probably going to want to get this fixed. If it's something major that we're going to fail every single inspection and we're not going to be able to sell this house because it's I don't know, the deck's going to fall off or something like that, then, I think we would just have to look line by line and maybe see what they want to do. I mean, some sellers may say, no, put it back on the market and now we'll only accept box 1. But again, I guess at this point, then you're going to have to put on the seller's disclosure some new stuff that but if it was a good offer, I would try to work through some of those and negotiate it again.
That's exactly where I was hoping you would go to, Cassie. Thank you for making that segue. When you have this inspection clause, this box 2, and there are some things found out that the seller's unaware of or ignoring, let's be real, that is wrong with the house that could inadvertently affect the sale of the property to your buyer or another buyer down the road. And I know some agents have had this issue of like, do you then explain, because you have, if you know about it as an agent, either with your eyes or with your ears, you know that it's an issue. You have to educate them on redoing their seller disclosure, updating their seller disclosure. So is it a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush? Is that the saying? I usually get them wrong. So if I got it right, I'm pretty excited. Or is it, let's cast this one away, try to get more money, get more repairs, or that scenario? So with that being said, how does that maybe change or alter how you would handle box 2 requesting inspections?
And I don't think I would change my answer. I would still want to look line by line and see exactly what's wrong with the house. I mean, if it's something piddly, then, that's, we'll cross that off and move on. But if it's something that could damage the house in the next 30 days or, something that's going to fail every single inspection, I'm probably go to my seller and say, you need to fix this. You probably knew about it and you're probably lying about it. I wouldn't obviously say that, but
Mhm.
most of these things they're, they know if there's a leaky faucet or a toilet,
Mhm.
that's pouring to the crawl space. I mean, they know. So I would rather approach them like that instead of me getting sued or them getting sued because they weren't honest on a seller's disclosure. And so we would just have to see what the exact inspection items were.
Yep. I agree. Anyone else? Tyann, Ken, Jennifer?
I would
I think
agree.
sometimes, oh, sorry, go ahead,
Go
Tanya.
ahead. Go.
I was just gonna say, sometimes you can call the buyer's agent's bluff because it's such a high seller's market. I would just say, well, send me the release. Now, if they do send the release, then maybe you can go back and say, well, maybe we can negotiate that, but maybe even try calling their bluff on that.
Yeah. Because I think it's important that, again, I think Ken's right. I think sometimes you do have agents that check box 2 and have no intent of doing pass fail. They still want to bring you repairs. And I feel like as an agent, I need to tell my clients, look, you already see there's a leaky faucet. You see there's a running commode. We're not going to ask for those things if they show up on inspection. Now, if there's, water in the crawl space or mold in the wall or whatever, then that's a whole different thing. Then you terminate the contract. So I think that's what's important. But then I agree with Cassie in that what I did was I sent my release and I called the agent as soon as I hit the send button. I called her and just said, I've sent the release, and there were some things that showed up in the inspection, and I didn't tell her anything because I feel like as a list agent, I don't want to know what's wrong with the house because I don't want to have to disclose it. So don't send me a list unless, it kind of goes back to, I don't want to have to disclose if it's not something major. But so I do feel like it's important to educate my clients, but I am all about trying to keep a deal together as much as possible. So I think communication is key, but I'm not ever going to tell my client, let's check box 2. And we'll go back and see if they'll fix those things later. That's never going to be my intent. And that's never what I would lead my clients to do either. It would have to,
Yeah.
it'd have to be major for us to ask for something to be done.
Back
Okay.
them in the corner.
I know it. I
Ken's
like
the
that,
bully of
Ken.
the group.
As a buyer's agent, I'd like to say that about half of I always check box 2 when we're doing offers, unless it's box 1 because it's a cash deal and it's, a flipper or something. And it's for me to determine it if it was on the seller's disclosure. If it wasn't on the seller's disclosure, for me, it's still negotiation. If something major comes up, like a leaky faucet, and it wasn't on the seller's disclosure or a leaky toilet, then we do go back and say, hey, here's the issue. What can we do? Do you want to fix it? Do you want to take something off the price? And I would say half of mine on option 2, there has been a negotiation after that. They've all been negotiated after that, sometimes on price and sometimes on repairs. So,
Sometimes it
and
does
like
happen.
Cassie said,
However, the
pardon?
buyer doesn't. I said, sometimes that does happen. And I agree that sometimes it is a necessary evil. However, the buyer doesn't have the right to negotiate.
No, they don't have the right, but otherwise we're walking, but a lot of times they want to save the deal too. But of course, a lot of my deals aren't the ones that have multiple offers, and they want to save the deal no matter what. But and for me, it's determinate. If it was on the seller's disclosure, then we have absolutely no right to ask for that. But if it wasn't on the seller's disclosure, then I think we have the duty also to inform the seller what's wrong with their house.
And see,
Because it's going to come up in the next inspection and the next inspection and the next, and most sellers want the deal done too, just like we do.
that's also based on location. So for me, I would literally look at you and be like, no. And I'd tell my sellers, no, hold firm, period. That's because and that'd be fine. And the thing is you also have to judge the house. So if the house flipped, you can literally tell somebody go screw themselves. Okay.
Right.
It's the ones that aren't that way, that are kind of middle ground, that you actually have to kind of negotiate, but you should have never accepted an offer with number 2 in the first place. If you're representing the seller, that's the case here.
So back up. So let me repeat this back to you and hear if I heard what you said.
Yes.
You're saying that as a listing agent, if you know there are things that need to be repaired on this house, things that will show up on an inspection report that's probably not on the seller disclosure, meaning they either did it as a never lived in the house, whatever, or they didn't know it to disclose it, but you feel like things are coming up. As a listing agent, you should have never have allowed your seller to accept box 2 to begin with.
Yeah. That's what I was saying.
Okay. I've
Yeah,
never thought of it that way, but
on
yeah.
1 or 3, you should have never done number 2. As a
So
seller.
as the seller's agent, you should have educated them as
On
in
number-
your house is going to need items. So you should either do 1 or 3.
Yep.
See, I learned something. Shoot, Ken. Oh, you
That
lunch
is a-
now.
That is a
Yeah.
good point. And Melody, you have a good point too, because
Mhm.
if I get a number 2 and I had 10 other offers and they want to walk, then I'm like, bye. But if I didn't have 10 other offers behind them, then maybe I would negotiate something on
Right.
it. It depends on, because what freaks out one buyer isn't going to freak out the next. So when you have 10 offers, you've got many more options of somebody that's not going to care about those items.
In different
Right. Mhm.
sectors.
And it depends on what's
Yeah.
wrong too, like you said, I mean, if it's something that's, major or minor, something might totally disturb one person, but not disturb the other person. But if it's functional, like a leaky toilet, I mean, that's going to bother everybody. So it's probably situational as well.
It is.
There you go. Very
It is.
good. So to give a little bit of education about where these box 1, 2, and 3 are going. Box 2 is disappearing. We're working on a new sales contract. It's 9 pages long. Box 2 is disappearing.
To
So you'll
what?
have 1 and 3. That's all you'll have, as is or an inspection. You will not have the opportunity to have an inspection and then still have to take it as is. You're either taking it as is or you're having a full inspection. We hired Nathan Billings as legal counsel, and he is very prominent in the real estate field in regards to taking our contracts into the court system and cross-examining people based on what's in our sales contracts. And because of that, Elbar hired him with my recommendation to help us rewrite the sales contract. And that is one of the things that are changing. It will probably go before if you're a broker, meaning you have the title of a broker in the MLS, not a broker like me, principal broker, but a broker as in you have a broker's license. You will get to see the real estate contract first, and you will get to have suggestions on it first. Then it will go out to the rest of the agents as a final product. So with that said, this conversation may not be one that we're having a lot of come November, December. I think the contract is supposed to start in January, like everybody is going to have to use it in January. However, until then, we are in a market that is fast paced and new to new to some of us because you're new to the business, but new to some of us because it's new. We've never had this situation before. I think this is still a discussion that we need to continue to have in order to work the best way we can for our clients. And I have another question, but I can't find it because I'm on my phone now, and I'm on here too on my phone. So I'm going to ask the guests if they want to, or the agents, if they want to ask the panel a question. If you've had a certain situation that you can condense to a 1 or 2 sentence question, then let's see if we can help you answer some of your inspection woes. Does anyone have a question?
I do, Christy. This is Kim Dillon.
Hi, Kim.
Hey. Okay, so I have a house. I'm the listing agent, buyer's agent, and then marked box number 3 to negotiate repairs in good faith. They decided they didn't want to even negotiate repairs, and so they wanted out and wanted their earnest money back. We asked for a repair list because that's what number 3 is about, and they didn't send one within the time frame, and they still want their earnest money back.
Is it?
You've got like 6 heads shaking no, Kim. Your answer's already given. I can see 4 of us and 3 of us are shaking our head no. That's when you gotta bring the
Be an asshole.
thank you, Kim.
Bring the hammer.
I don't think Kimberly can, but thank you, Kim. I was trying to figure out how to say it politely.
Ken, can we hire you for those phone calls?
Mhm.
I'd be okay with it. Not a problem.
I'll hire
Just
you if I have to
grashing
make
out.
one of those.
Yeah.
See, I feel like that goes back to what I was talking about, how I'm not going to beg an agent for a list within their time frame. If they don't send it, they don't send it, and
Their responsibility.
yeah.
I do agree. It is their responsibility. And if they go beyond that responsibility, I have seen agents, maybe one in our office in the last 17 or 18 years, but I've seen other agents write a check for the total of what the escrow check was because they messed up and they're having to pay that escrow to that seller.
Yeah.
Because they didn't submit the repair request in the time frame that they should have. That is a drop dead deadline, and you will see that in the new contracts it actually says time is of the essence beside it. There's several things you will see in the new contracts potentially that will say time is of the essence. It makes it a stronger, much stronger contract that both sides can rely on, because right now we can't rely on it very well. So Kimberly, I guess the answer to your question, unless the panelists want to correct me, is you get their earnest money. And if you fight over it, then you fight over it. If we happen to hold it, I'll send out a 60-day letter. If we don't happen to hold it, then I'll contact the broker and say, it's time for you to release some earnest money. And you need to explain to your client that they didn't do right. And if they didn't do right because they weren't explained well enough by their realtor representative, then I guess your realtor is going to be writing a check.
Could
I've
she
had those
go ahead-
conversations.
Could she go ahead and put it back on the market now and just put in the agent?
Mhm.
That way it's not pending any longer than it has to. Go ahead and relist it.
You can relist it and put the very first words have to say in the marketing remarks, pending release. Nothing can come before it. The very first words have to be pending release, and then your marketing remarks start after that. They cannot hold your contract up or your listing marketing time if they've made it clear that they are not proceeding forward. Which in this case, I think I've talked to you, Kimberly. I don't think they're proceeding forward, and you put it back on the market.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Got about 10 more minutes of our panel session. Y'all are quiet.
I'll chime in if nobody else
Hi,
has
Caitlin.
something. Hello. So I'm a late ad, so I don't know if you guys have gone over this, but I have a buyer right now who we did the as is with inspection option. But in the inspection that just happened today, the roof, the chimney is leaking water onto in the house. So I'm wondering if that is going to be protected underneath the contract that says the roof has to be watertight. Is my question.
Is the roof leaking or is the chimney leaking?
If Trudy's on
Is it-
here, Trudy.
Is it the flashing? Because here's the difference. If it's the flashing on the chimney and the flashing is leaking, if that's considered part of the roof, then it's a roof issue. If it's the brick or that little thing on the top that lets the smoke out, it's like the little hood vent or whatever. If those are what's leaking, then it's the chimney.
Okay, I think
If it's the roof, I would say it has to be watertight, and you could probably ask them to fix it.
okay. I think it's the chimney. So just want to double check. It's affecting the roof, and that's why it's kind of a little bit gray. But
Yeah.
Okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any different opinion on that? Panel, because it's your you're the panel, and I just went ahead and answered it. Sorry.
Are
And
your
you're-
buyers going to walk because of it?
She does not want to, but she does want it fixed. So I'm gonna have to break the the code of as is and ask the, the seller if they want to try to save it, or we're gonna have to walk if not. It's a pretty big damage spot in the roof around the chimney that's leaking.
Actually, okay, since you're representing the buyer, I'll tell you how to be an a-hole. What you should do is ask for it, and what you should do is have a professional contractor go out there. So a professional roofer, or professional chimney guy, because then that would help protect you when you submit it, because you really have to get that as is watertight, because that would fall in there underneath the sellers to maintain their property versus the chimney part. Now the chimney part is a different altogether, because if it's a chimney, then you can't really, there's not much to do at that point from the seller side of things. And on the seller side, I tell you to shove it, but from the roof part, you have a case. You do.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as well. I'm just gonna have to be that person to try to see if I can make this work for my buyer as well as the seller, to be able to sell the house, knowing that there's an issue that they're gonna have to fix with anybody else. So, but okay, well, that kind of was my plan. So thank you for confirming that.
No problem. Anyone else? Have you ran into any issues?
I have a situation. It's my all around first offer that I'm preparing. Kind of stage fright. I'm sorry, I'm nervous to talk. The property.
Who is this? Is this Chantel? Okay, yes. I couldn't find you. Okay, yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry, I'm whited out back here, learning all of my things that I need to do when I'm Zooming. I have buyers that are interested in a property. So I'm representing the buyers. They're from out of state. So a lot of our transactions and conversations I've done virtual with my buyers. It's a larger property here in Lawrenceburg, and I've been talking to the listing agent. They had the previous buyer backed out because on their inspection, the inspector said that the roof needs to be replaced in a couple of years. So my buyers, and we already today just went out to have their contractor who they're already working with to come give them an estimate on the roof replacement. So my buyers want to have the cost of the roof to be replaced written into their loan, their financing, to have that, but also to get that money back from the buyer. So they're using the term rebate. Like we offer, it's listed for $475. If the roof is going to cost $25,000, then writing the offer for $500 and then getting that $25 back. So it's a huge loaded question that I'm just getting a lot of pieces of the puzzle to bring to my mentor to figure out the best way to write this offer. But I figure I would throw it out to you all since you're here right now.
I cannot wait to hear how you guys are going to answer this one. I'm not saying a word. Go ahead, panel. I know the answer, of course, but I want to hear what I've taught you all. Anyone jump in?
I was wondering could she not write it up as something escrowed, like held in escrow, and then the invoice for the roof be paid at the time of closing from the proceeds? So if you do increase the price to 500,000, with that invoice from the roofing company to be paid as an escrowed item, so it's an agreed upon repair. And that way it's full disclosure, the lender's aware of it, everybody's aware of it, it's getting paid for, as long as everybody agrees.
Good answer, Tyann.
I mean, it'll have to still appraise for 500 though, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And so in that, to add to that piece, if it doesn't appraise for the 500, because they actually have an appraisal on file for 481, can the buyers put down a larger down payment to offset that piece? Because they had money that they could do a cash offer, but this property is more than they expected. So now they're throwing in financing into the mix, but they don't want to lose this property either.
Yeah,
Why don't they just pay for the roof? Well,
Because since they're already getting the financing, and then they won't have, it'll keep them more liquid assets, more their cash funds.
So can you do it like an allowance, like you would for like carpet allowance or whatever, and just, I guess if they're getting 500 for it, could the sellers write a check right to the roofing company, kind of like if you write in the contract, $25,000 roof allowance, seller to pay contractor at closing or whatever?
or it'd be paid out of the escrow funds. It would be an invoice that the
I guess
closing
it would be the same thing.
would write the check. That way you know it's paid.
Anyone else have any suggestions? Jennifer, Ken?
I agree
terrified
with
to hear what Ken
Cassie. I
has to
think
say.
I agree with Cassie. Write a check to the contractor. There's also like I have a roofer that will do the roof and finance it so it can be paid at closing.
Mhm. It's good.
See?
That's very good. I think we all need his number.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay out.
I was waiting for you, Ken.
No, I know. I just, I'm not gonna say what I want to say.
Good.
I like what Ken has to say, though. I am
Come on,
not
Ken.
like sensitive, squishy. I have 4 boys and married the world's largest smartass. So please share with me your thoughts.
You have the buyers, right?
Yes.
And were you in a multi-offer deal?
She hasn't done it
they
yet.
are
She's
not
writing it.
entertaining any other offers at this moment.
Write it for $25,000 less. And say you must fix the roof inside of there. And see if they'll budge on it, because it's a good negotiation tactic, because you already start. And then if you have to, split the difference with them and win. And then your buyers feel good, sellers suck it up, and then that's how you get it done. That's what I would do. I'd use it to your advantage.
I thought the contract was already written.
I thought the contract was already written to you all, and you
Thank
all
you.
were in the inspection phase.
No, I'm sorry. This is something that the inspection, I apologize for I didn't clarify that. The inspection was from the previous buyer. And so the listing agent shared with me, I said, is there anything on this property that you can share with me why the buyer walked from, because it was pending. And that's what she said, was that the buyer wanted the seller to front the money to fix the roof, and the seller didn't want to. So that contract.
Oh, yeah, then I would agree.
I
with
agree
you.
with Ken. I
Yeah,
would agree with Ken. Absolutely, every day.
yeah.
Not every day, Tyann. We won't always agree with Ken.
I want-
I'm teasing.
Christy knows when I get heated.
I gotta calm him down sometimes. We don't always agree with Ken. No.
I'm not a badass.
I'm playing. Those are very, very,
Not-
very good answers, and they gave you very, very, very good advice. If you are under contract and you find out there is a repair, you cannot legally have money transfer from seller or from seller to buyer unless it's on the CD. That is loan fraud, and you will spend nice quality time in a 5x6 cell with a 1-inch mattress. We do not want to go to real estate jail. Number 2, you didn't know that, and it's okay. Nobody's judging you. Huh? What'd you say? I can't hear you. You're muted. Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry.
That's
I was
okay.
just being silly. I said, I don't need to wait for my kids that bad.
Yeah. I don't know. I might need a trip tomorrow after surgery. I might need some time away. But the other thing I want to tell you is he is exactly right. Everything is up for negotiation prior to writing the contract. Just because they said no doesn't mean no forever. It just means no for now. It's my favorite thing Todd ever taught me. And the reality of it is if they know it's a problem and it continues to be a problem, because if the realtor knows there is an issue and they won't put it on the seller disclosure, it is her responsibility
based on Article 1, to be honest and diligent in her dealings and to treat every party fairly, to disclose that information. I'm echoing somehow, so if somebody can mute themselves, that would be great. And in the end, the escrow is the correct fix if the seller's going to pay the buyer money. Putting it as escrow after closing, once the repair is done, is the correct fix for that. Finding an attorney to do it is probably going to be your next most difficult step, because a lot of attorneys don't want to get involved in escrows unless it's something like, what is that they roll out on the grass? Help me out. They roll it out in instant grass. Sod. Yeah, sod. Because you either see it or you don't. Like a roof, did they fix it or did they really fix it? Like there could be questionable things happening when replacing a roof. Sod, it's either there or it's not.
Don't worry, Christy and I all know well what a roof is.
Oh,
Well, and there's no issue with it now. The inspector, from what the listing agent told me, the inspector said that it would need to be replaced in a couple of years. So
it's just end of life.
Yes.
Yeah, you just negotiate price on that.
Yeah.
Price reduction.
Yeah, because if it's not leaking, my sellers aren't going to be paying for it.
Yeah.
No, and that's where he was like, I'm not going to front the money to fix it and do that piece. So that's where my buyers really want to make the most attractive offer, but then also make sure that they're being covered on their end.
You would just negotiate price point based on end of life. That's what that's called when a roof is, or an appliance or a system within the house is nearing the end of its serviceable use. That's when you negotiate for repair, but you can't ask for anything to be replaced or repaired unless it is broken in an inspection. So if the water heater is 15 years old, but it's functioning perfectly, you can't ask for it to be replaced simply because it's old.
Okay, in that you would just, am I muted? In that you would just do the price reduction. Okay. So I think, so from my understanding, since there's no way to write that into a loan, because that would be where the loan fraud that you were saying about, because of it being on the seller disclosure.
Unless they're doing, this is way beyond our class, but unless they're doing a 2013K, which is a loan that allows you to make repairs on the house, that they give you money as you make repairs. Tara can go into that with you later, but it's called and is it a 203K loan? I think that's what they're called. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you. I know, like, a lot of this is kind of happening in the situation and talking to them, and a lot of pieces to this puzzle that we're trying to put together for this property. So thank you for your answers and your time. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Christy, I
have
a question. You had talked about putting things in escrow and how a lot of title companies and attorneys' offices won't do it, and they won't. So I've never had any luck with that. I've tried it a million times. So I usually will do, like Cassie had talked about, have it written to the contractor directly. I mean, is that what you suggest?
That's the second best way to do it. As long as it's not written directly from buyer to seller, you're not committing loan fraud. If there is a repair that can't be done or completed until after the closing, the best next step would be to have the seller write it out directly to the contractor. So that way there's no, hey, you're giving the buyer money, under the table. It's for repair. And because it's a check written, it has to be used for that repair. Catherine?
Yes.
Did you have you have a thumb up or raised your hand? I saw something going on.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. I was just scratching my face. Sorry.
Well, it was an emoji. So I thought you were saying, hey, I have a question. I'm sorry. Okay. Colin, for last question, anybody got one? All righty. Well, it's 2:07. You all have a fantastic Tuesday. I'm very impressed with the amount of people that have come and listened to this panel. It was obviously something that is very much needed. We have another great one coming this week. It is commercial
real estate by, what's his name, Cassie?
Neil
Neil-
Metcalf.
Who?
Neil Metcalf.
Neil Metcalf.
Mhm.
And he's coming to talk about commercial real estate and I guess how to get in it, what to do. And
He's more of a Q&A. He didn't want to do like
Mhm.
classroom style. So please come with some questions you have. That would be great. He's
we'll
really good.
pre-prepare some to start off. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good. If I ever have a client that's wanting commercial, I always reach out to him first. So make sure you come with some questions for him.
Can our
Fantastic.
next class be how to negotiate like Kinder Grant? We need
Oh
that class.
gosh. Kinder
No.
Grant and Melody Linkovich. You get them on the other ends of a deal and you got like an atom bomb right in the middle.
Oh, I work well with others. I work well.
I'm teasing.
They are
I'm
very
teasing.
good at negotiating inspections.
I would
There you
love to
go.
do a deal with Ken. Oh, I'd love to be on the opposite end of that.
Oh, have a fly on the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be
Well,
fun.
have a wonderful Tuesday, guys. Chances are I'm going to be out for the next 2 days. So if you need anything, I am a phone call away.
Good
I'll see
luck.
ya. Thanks, girl.
Good
Thanks for
luck.
being on the panel. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
See ya.
you.
See ya.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank
Bye.
you.